Everybody. Hi, hello. Thank you for joining me this afternoon from Zoom as well as from live on our Facebook from every country. So I am Lisa, your host for today. Today we are going to talk about Islamic education technology and how we can incorporate modern technology into an ancient faith. So I'm Lisa from QERA. QERA, we are an edtech company. We are actually a platform, an education marketplace where we want to connect all students and all education providers. So with me today, we have three esteemed speakers. One with us, Dr. Abdullah from Ministry of Religious Affairs, and also Ibu Salamah from UIN, as well as we have a edtech strategist, Mr. Saeed Darwish. So can I actually have all my speakers to introduce yourself, please? Maybe we start with Dr. Abdullah.
Well, thank you very much for the time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Abdullah Faqih. I've been working in the Ministry of Religious Affairs, managing Islamic education, especially madrasah education in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Can I invite Ibu Salamah to introduce herself, please?
Sure, thank you, Lisa. Hi, everybody. My name is Salamah Agung. I'm currently a lecturer at the Department of Chemistry Education at the State Islamic University Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta. I'm also the head of Career Center at that university. And at the same time, I'm also the coordinator for 5,000 doctoral program of the Ministry of Religious Affairs. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Salamah. And can I get Mr. Saeed Darwish to introduce yourself, please?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. You can call me Saeed. I am originally a Filipino, and I'm currently based in Malaysia and part of Falmouth University's cohort in Cornwall, England. And I come from a technology background, having over 25 years of Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Asia Pacific experience. And I am here to share insights and learn also from everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saeed. So yeah, let's welcome all our three speakers. We have three very esteemed and very experienced speakers. So today we are going to talk a lot about how we can move this ancient faith forward to follow the flow of this world. So yeah, actually, can I get your view? Maybe in Indonesia, we start with Indonesia, like how the Islamic education has been. We all know that education as a whole for the past 100 years, it feels very similar. The approach has not been changing, but we can see the pandemic has changed everything and moved everything into digital platforms. So now Islamic education is very widely studied, but now can it actually follow the pace of this world? So do you think, Dr. Abdullah, can you give us an overview of the education? Maybe we start with Indonesia.
Well, thank you. In Indonesia, there are around more than 83,000 madrasah, starting from Islamic kindergarten, and then Islamic primary madrasah, and secondary Islamic madrasah. So we have 83,000 madrasah in Indonesia, and it's true that right now students of madrasah learning from home, so they don't go to madrasah because of the existing pandemic right now. And I think I would like to explain first the nature or the condition of madrasah in Indonesia. I think it's rather different, maybe the characteristics of madrasah in Indonesia and other countries. In Indonesia, in terms of curriculum, for example, madrasah actually shared the same curriculum compared to general schools in Indonesia. So although it is called madrasah, but actually the students of madrasah learn the same subjects compared to other students in general schools. The distinctive feature of madrasah, I think, it's about the religious curriculum, because the students of madrasah learn more hours in terms of the religious subjects, but in other secular subjects like mathematics, science, and so on. So actually, there is no difference between the students of madrasah and other students in general schools in Indonesia. And actually, in madrasah, we have made some innovation in terms of learning technology. So we actually have developed, the e-learning platform, and in the near future, we will develop more about how the students can easily learn from or using LMS, learning management system. So that's why I think we need to develop more digital contents in religious subjects and other subjects taught in madrasah.
Yes,
Is that enough?
yes. So yeah, I think it is really important, like, to use like LMS, systems such as this to really manage and to help like make the education available to as many people and as possible in a more convenient way. Yeah. So also, like, Mr. Darwish, do you think that you can share with us a little bit more on maybe the overview of what you have known staying in Malaysia for so long, coming from the Philippines, as well as your experience in the Middle East? How has this like been in the world?
Okay, I think most of institutions right now, undeniably because of the current COVID, they have already, I think, taken advantage or leveraged technology, like what Dr. Faki said. There are modules, there are already content now being, I think, made accessible to a lot of studentry, including the teachers. And from my background in technology and having undergone some studies into the challenges of the industry, in particular the madrasa, especially the Philippines, where it is only recorded having less than 50, 36 in fact, despite having 11 million or close to 12% of the population of Muslims in the Philippines. The main problem is, one, is the internet access or the intermittent connection being provided by, we know, the ICT providers, the telecoms. Like in particular, and this is something similar in the Philippines, in the southern region, where we have majority are poor because they are in the rural archipelago, similar to Malaysia, Sabah, and Indonesia, where geographical barriers exist. And in turn, internet connectivity is something that has to be addressed by the telecom and I believe the LGU. Why? Despite having technology, websites, online access, and mobile phones, if we are going to, I think, transform the modules of education access online, all the students are gonna struggle to access those because of internet. So that is, I believe, one challenge that can be addressed. And technology, of course, can be leveraged. In fact, I belong to a startup company also that addresses this. Despite internet connectivity, academic institutions, madrasas especially, are ensured of continuity in education. Second, if I may share also with you, particularly in the Philippines, we are a region where we are perennially devastated by acts of God, meaning weather and typhoon problems, meaning, volcanic eruptions and all earthquakes also. The region, especially Philippines, and I'm sure this may be true in Indonesia and other parts of the region. This makes the infrastructure also not the safe place for learning. So what I think we can learn from technology now, again, coming from that space, is institutions must continue to leverage the state of the art, or what we call 21st century technology, and blend it into the learning and the academe. So that is what I can contribute from my end.
Thank you, Mr. Darwish. Yeah, so Ibu Salama, I understand also you have actually, been studying in a Western country, and then you come back to Indonesia and you were teaching there. Do you think you can actually give like a comparison, like a difference, how the approach of education has been over there as compared to here in Indonesia as a developing country? And is it possible for the same way of education to take place here?
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Well, first of all, actually, I would like to a little bit introduce about the madrasah educations, but because Mr. Fakih has already started, but well, just to make clear about madrasah in Indonesia, that has a slightly different kind of character that compared to regular schools. So in my opinion about your issue, when we relate the conditions of madrasah here to schooling overseas, I would like to say that it's quite different in terms of the facilities. We found from the teacher's perspective that the facilities, the educational facilities, the technology facilities in Indonesia is not sufficient enough to support teachers in teaching with technology. And the fundamental issue is actually teachers also do not have a clear definition about educational technology. In my study on teachers' perspective, they let's say they have kind of three definitions of the technology education. If I may share my presentation, is it okay, Lisa?
Yes, please.
Yes. So this is what they say about the technology education. Teacher says, yeah. So first, they define technology education as importance. It means that they argue that technology is very important in the learning process, especially nowadays when these pandemic issues are rising. And also, they define technology education as having an important role, meaning that technology is undeniably important for one's life better. So they cannot avoid from the technology, but then, later on they said that they need support for the technology. And also they define technology as education learning tools. So they agree, or they admit that the importance of technology as a learning tool is undeniably important. But then again, at the end, they say that the support for having this sufficient technology system is still lacking. So this is what actually they mention. in terms of science educations, because I'm dealing with science teachers, yeah. So they say that technology have relation with science, but then, you know, the relation is merely seen as technology to be a tools for teachers to learn science. For example, if they want to learn what is molecular system, for example, so they use this PowerPoint presentation that have you know, view of the molecular system and things like that. That's what they define as technology and relate to science. And also, most of them agree that, again, training, even though they say that they knew about technology, because most of them think that they are able to use the technology, but they admit that their knowledge and skills on having this technology skill is not sufficient enough. So they really need support. So in this situation, I mean, once again, compared to educations abroad, is really different, because when I, in my experience, having been with teachers in Netherlands, for example, they, their relation with technology is really close. You know, the government has set already technology facilities for them. For example, for a very small and fundamental things such as internet connection, you know, they guarantee that teachers can have this access very easily. But here in Indonesia, the common problem for having this technology is about internet connection. So most of the time, learning is hindered by the lacking of good internet connections. So this is one very simple examples how the difference between here in Indonesia in terms of technology facilities and there in Netherlands, for example, where I studied. I think that's what I have to say, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Salama. Yeah, so actually, I think it's really true, you know, like because of this developing countries, really places that we want to help, it's because of the internet connection that a lot of people cannot really, you know, go online, adopt technology into education as much as we want to. You know, given the pandemic, even now, like, you know, people have to work from home, even in the city, internet connection is also a problem. So learning using the internet is also a challenge for many, even in the city. We're not even talking about places that are a little bit outskirts. So Mr. Darwish, since you are in this ed tech, do you think there is actually anything that we could do to help lift this problem?
Yes, indeed. In fact, like I mentioned earlier, the startup that I belong to already is advancing revolutionary or next generation solutions that, number one, not only I think address the lack of modules on websites or online presences of institutions. For example, I'll give you a classic example. I've been an overseas or migrant worker for close to 28 years. Now, similarly, there are 13 million Filipinos abroad, in Hong Kong, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, working, and they want to upskill and reskill themselves, especially in Islamic education. A lot of Muslims who have not learned much and are strangers, of course, in countries where they want still to advance their learning, if they go to a website of a school, they are not able to enroll and pay and access video modules or lessons. That's one problem that we are now addressing, our firm. And later on, I can hand you my contacts. We can, of course, have a discourse on that. And secondly, the problem also of internet connectivity, despite having all this. Now, we are also able to look at the boom in mobile explosion, meaning gone are the days when we needed PCs and hardwares that are huge, you know, laptops, because we now have tablets and even mobile devices. And they say 87% of those who are now, I think, actively involved in learning use mobile device as the most effective way of learning. You see kids learning games on mobile phone. You see kids, you know, learning history or anything in YouTube. So anything now that has on-demand, they say, access, which requires technology embedded in a particular website, maybe. Of course, the latest video technology, they're called OTT platforms that are able to provide access to students studying at their own pace. There have been clinical studies now that say the usual classroom learning, which have been taken to schools right now and done in Zoom. My kids have studied for the last 1 year on Zoom, and suddenly the school decided it is not effective because they are on Zoom, they act like they are in the classroom, and they say that is not the right way to take advantage of technology. What is the right way? The right way, they say, is video or learning that is accessible on demand. If you go to Harvard websites, Wharton websites, and pretty much I think all the Ivy Leagues. In fact, there is one institution called edX where I actually enrolled and earned degrees, non-certificate degrees, of course, from Harvard University that made me study courses at my own pace, opening it again at my own pace. And later on, even if I don't have internet, I will be able to access that. Now, we are providing that solution, and I think technology is something that all academic institutions, and I agree with Dr. Salama as well, that a lot of training has to be instituted from the top level, meaning the administrators and the teachers. They need to be trained in order for them to be capable, of course, of transferring learning through the digital means to their students. And secondly, above all, it is also costly to maintain a physical structure now for schools. The problem now with physical structures and the requirement for students to attend is already, I think, something that has been now reviewed, where most schools do not need physical attendance. Kids can access their lessons, their quizzes, their exams, and even do later live one-on-one, maybe with their professors. So that is something that we are now advancing. And of course, there's many other platforms that do that. There's Masterclass, there's Udemy, and of course, if you want to book platforms, also there are platforms like QERA, where you can also be found by your students if you are a course provider. So from that angle, a lot of I think necessity for everyone to really upskill themselves in the digital technology, especially for the education industry. The teaching methods digitally is something that has to be, I think, reevaluated.
Right. I think, yeah, if maybe having the flexibility of learning on someone's time and after finishing the course, for example, a class, and then having, bringing it offline, it could perhaps help. Dr. Abdullah, what do you think if this actually is incorporated into generally, education in perhaps, let's say, the whole country? Do you think this would be helpful for them?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think what we are discussing right now is really in line with what we are going to develop in the ministry in Indonesia. Let me share so actually right now we are doing madrasah reform. We are going to develop smart madrasah. So first of all, what we need to do is to have, the madrasah digital platform. This is what we are going to do. So we are going to develop the digital platform. This platform consists of other areas of improvement, areas of in terms of how to develop the e-planning and e-budgeting platform for madrasah, and then student assessment, teacher assessment, and also resource center. Resource center things. We are going to develop this one, LMS, and it is exactly in line what Dr. Syed mentioned, that in the near future, actually, we need to make to explain to the teachers that actually the idea of cyber pedagogy is slightly different what we might understand, or the teacher understand right now. Because talking about cyber pedagogy, I think it is not like we switch, we transfer, what we are doing like in Zoom, for example. So it is not really cyber training actually, but in the cyber pedagogy, I think what we need to what need to do is the study should be independent. The study should be the learning should be flexible. So I agree that maybe what we are going to do is like edX platform or Coursera or a thing like that. That's the challenge actually. And actually in the Ministry of Religious Affairs, actually we are going there. So that it is right now we are developing this platform, and maybe at the end of this year, the platform, the LMS platform will be there in our ministry. And the other challenge is how we input, or how we develop the innovative and creative digital contents. Because talking about the LMS platform and things like that, I think we are not talking about only videos, but also PPT, also infographic things, and also maybe reading material. So I think this what we are going to develop in madrasah in Indonesia. Yes.
Oh, that looks really very exciting. Yeah. So also just want to for all those that are with us today, actually we want ideas from you, like what do you think also. Actually you can, if you're watching from Facebook, you can actually put in your comments, and if you're actually on Zoom, you can also put in your comments on the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself to give some opinions, ideas, we always welcome that. Yeah. So just want to also see Dr. Abdullah. So having all this in place, because now it's the pandemic and everything goes on digital, but after pandemic, probably maybe like say hopefully by end of this year or next year it will be over, but definitely at one point it will be over. So life will go back to normal, things will be physical again. But how do you think with this in place, even after the pandemic, maybe the next 5 to 10 years, how the future do you think it will be like if this is put in place fully?
I think the idea of blended learning is a must for the future. I mean, we cannot back we cannot go back to the normal education or normal learning, in which the learning is only conducted through face-to-face learning. But I think the idea of blended training, the idea of blended learning is is something inevitable for the future, and we are going to there. It is a must, I think. Although I admit that there are still difficulties like internet connectivity, and also IT devices belong to students and so on. I think that's the challenge for us to deal with. But the idea of blended training, I think we cannot escape from this. I mean, thank you.
Right. Yeah, Ibu Salama, who would like to hear also your viewpoint, as a lecturer, a teacher yourself. With this in place, how do you think it would impact teaching in this near future?
Yes, Lisa, I think I agree with Mr. Faki that this online learning will be later on an alternative, for learning and teaching process. I can see, for example, I can imagine that, for example, if teachers are having, let's say, training, because they most of the time have to go for trainings, for example, but they don't need to leave their classes. They will use this online learning as an alternative for their face-to-face meeting. So this is, I think, a good way to have this kind of blended learning. So this moment, I think, is the best time for teachers to get used to this system. Get used to this system, and also for educational technology developers. Most importantly, is to make more innovations in terms of, let's say, learning materials, the learning content, the teaching process in this online learning. Because I see now there is a tendency for students to get bored of having like Zoom meetings. For example, with my students, we have so many training events in Zooms, but I saw the trends is decreasing. One of the reason is that they get bored with having this Zoom meeting every time. And because there's so many Zoom events also, they now tend to really choose the event that is more important for them, and this is an issue that we need to take into consideration for this online learning. So we need to have a learning system, online learning system, that makes students be focused, all the time when they're learning, not to be bothered with other online meetings that are more attractive than their learning process in schools. Like, for example, here we have, let's say, EdTech. We have here in Indonesia, we have Ruang Guru. We have, a lot of learning platform. And now, let's say, schools have their own learning platform that are not really interacting, with the students. Students are getting bored with the system from school. So they may choose to have the Ruang Guru system, for example, to learn instead of having learning in their own school, or else, because there's so many alternatives out there.
Right. Indeed, a lot of EdTech, companies are like booming, and because also I think EdTech company they're all here with different types of platform, including like us, QERA, is really to help students to get the kind of education that they need, because also we can see it's increasingly difficult for our students to really focus on Zoom with just one type of like traditional. It's like traditional education put on Zoom. So, but if there would be like a lot of development in this technology into education, do you think that it would be difficult for a lot of teachers to really adapt into using this, or would they really be very happy and be very accepting to take this technology to adopt it into their teaching?
Well, I think it really depends on the teachers. If I may say from my experience dealing with teachers, there are many types of teachers. Teachers who are very excited, very motivated to learn. And there are also teachers who just receive what the government required them to do. That's all. No additional kind of knowledge and skills they develop from other sources. So again, in terms of teachers, I think the government should have certain program that make teachers. It's a compulsory programs that for the teachers to improve or develop their technology skills and knowledge, because most of the time, especially for our teachers, they tend to follow the government's policy rather than the technology development out there. So as long as the government didn't ask them to, let's say, learn this, learn that, do this, do that, so teachers will not take some initiatives for their own. So I think what Dr. Faki mentions about the development of the LMS for the Ministry of Religious Affairs, I think this is one of the support from the government to really, invite all the madrasa teachers to grow and develop their technology skills. Otherwise, they will not initiative to develop their own technology skills.
Yeah, so actually we can see from here that Dr. Faki's team that like what the LMS, everything, that the entire thing that's coming up, adopting the technology into madrasa, it's really good, but it's beyond just good for educating students. It's beyond just good for tool for teaching, but it's actually to educate teachers as well into using technology in daily lives in teaching. So Dr. Faki also would like to ask you, do you think that it would be challenging introducing this to the teachers?
Of course, it is a great challenge for us. It is not easy. I don't think it is an easy task to change the teacher's mind about the blended learning and teaching, because sometimes some teachers still misunderstood about the idea of blended learning and teaching. They think that the online teaching is only how to move the face-to-face training into the Zoom, for example. In fact, it is not. So actually, the idea of online training on and blended teaching and learning is actually we need to introduce the idea of a synchronous and asynchronous approach of learning and teaching. So the asynchronous learning and teaching here means that actually students can have freedom and can have flexibility when and where they can study, they can learn. The things, the important thing is, the materials and also the activity, learning activity, and also learning path that the student should do is accountable. I mean, that's not an easy task, but we are going to going to do. And let me just one second. The you know, sorry. Next month, for example, we are going to train teachers how to implement or how to use one of the platform. Our platform, it's called 𝐅𝐴M. 𝐅𝐴M is like, you know, e-planning, e-budgeting apps application. So we are going to train almost 60,000 teachers in Indonesia, but we are using this platform to train them, to train them, and we give time, 2 weeks. They can study by themselves through synchronous and asynchronous. So mostly asynchronous approach. So they can learn, you know, they can learn all the materials. This is the materials. This is watching videos, infographics, and so on. So that's the things that we actually trying to convince teachers that actually the online training, the online teaching is actually like this. It is not like, you know, online teaching is like we are doing right now through Zoom or through Google Meet and so on. Not just like that. That's not an easy task, but we have to do. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, speaking of like going everything, you know, teaching teachers actually is also one of the challenge before actually we get everyone to use it and, you know, educate. So yeah, and also like what Ibu Salama mentioned earlier, she was saying that, you know, maybe there could be more like ed tech that helps make the learning easier or more fun. Mr. Darwish, would like to get your opinion since you are from the ed tech industry. Do you think maybe in the next maybe 5 to 10 years there will be anything that will design differently and to make life a little easier for everybody?
Yes, I think taking on from what Dr. Faki said, which is a very laudable, I think, effort from the Indonesian perspective of advancing education technology. How I wish the Philippines as well would have this kind of technology. And what also Dr. Salama earlier referred to as the main challenges really are the teachers and the skills of the teachers and how engaging, she said, for students it is really to attend classrooms on Zoom. That is why the future of education is actually online and offline platform, where the challenge in particular in the Philippines, again, a lot of people have internet because they can afford internet and they can access Facebook, they can go to Instagram. It's easy for them to maneuver. Now, the problem is if edtech providers or solution providers can gamify that experience on a mobile phone that makes it easy, just like Facebook, for people to sign up, access the modules, training modules. Their videos are cached. What we do, the solution of the future is actually caching it into a local server. And we have what we call the micro cloud that we use, so that even without internet access, your learners who go online to your site or to your school or to your LMS will still be accessible, including YouTube or other sites that you wish them to access as well. So that, I think, part of technology which is missing in the current providers. They don't have that. Addressing the internet and the access to that on demand at their own pace, meaning they can learn the modules anytime, anywhere, especially on their mobile device. Again, it's boring to open our laptop. Kids especially are hooked to their phones, and they are familiar, I think. Even teachers can actually be familiar to the sign up that you create on your application. But the main problem that you probably have to handle is all the modules and content on your platform should be accessible, especially with internet connectivity challenges, including power outages challenges in the Philippines. There are times 6 hours in a day we don't have light in my island, where I come from, Tubigindangan. It's home to the first mosque in the Philippines. And up to now, we don't have potable water. We don't have electricity. And I don't think technology can really, right now, the kind of technology we have can address it. That's why we are advancing this next generation solution that hopefully is something that can help the whole industry, both teachers and students.
Wow, I think that is really something that's really great, you know, to address problems, internet connectivity. We can actually reach out to even more places and more people who would be able to receive education. Yeah, so I think that is pretty amazing. I think from here also we can see that, you know, when people talk about EdTech, it's not just EdTech as in one thing, you know, it's not just a platform where it helps you to put your courses to teach online. It's not like, for example, we talk about Zoom, people go there, they teach, but that is also, there's a fallback. So I think actually there are a lot of different types of technology that needs to be incorporated to make teaching successful, effective, I would say, because like for example, QERA is an EdTech platform as well. So QERA, like for us, students come to us, it's an app, like what Mr. Darwish said just now. Everything is on the mobile, the convenience of the mobile app. So it's an app where people can come, they search for the course that they want, and then they buy the courses from there, and then they enroll. But then again, this finish over here, and then you will need also, you know, going into the class, like digitalization of like teaching as well. So that is something that is again different. So that is the second part of EdTech that we are talking about. And also like synchronous and asynchronous teaching, reaching out to places where there is no Wi-Fi. So that will be a different kind of EdTech. So EdTech is really something really very big. Like today, that's what we really learned. Adopting technology is not just like take Zoom, put in class, we teach, but it's a lot more than this, like what Dr. Fakir was also, you know, sharing, like the LMS system that will put in place in madrasah in the whole Indonesia. Yeah, so I think we really learned a lot of things today. But before we end, I would like to also ask, like maybe Ibu Salama, we can start with you, like you could share with us, like how do you think students will really benefit from having, you know, EdTech incorporated into Islamic education?
I think students will benefit, get the most benefit from this LMS system. Yeah, especially the students who are in area which is less to have technology, you know, to have the information technology, because now the learning is somehow uniform. I mean, all students can get the same learning materials, the same learning technology, and this is good for students, for the whole students in the country, in Indonesia. So no students left behind in terms of technology. I think this is one of the good benefit for having technology in the learning process that can be, you know, shared, be used to students around Indonesia.
Well, thank you, Ibu Salama. And Dr. Fakir, what do you think, how it would like really impact the entire Islamic education in Indonesia if we really introduce this system moving forward?
Yes, thank you. I think the greatest challenge for us in facing the future education after pandemic, I think, is how to provide technology in a simple way, accessible. It means that how to provide technology more accessible for students in a disadvantaged group of people, in disadvantaged group of like in remote areas and so on. So I think it is the greatest challenge because the future education is really dealing with how to do with technology. So that's due to the existing difficulties like internet connectivity and so on. And I agree that actually our challenge is how to provide accessible technology for them, and it requires innovation like Dr. Syed mentioned and explained. I think that's one of the solution that we that we can do to deal with the problems. And I think madrasah and other Islamic educations and also students are welcome. I mean, they are happy. I think they will feel, yeah, they will be very happy if they can have learning experience like using technology.
Right. Yeah, that's really very true. Thank you, Dr. Faki. Yeah, Mr. Darwish, do you have anything to add on to Dr. Faki's like comments before we have for the last time before we end the session?
Well, everyone, I think, in this panel already encapsulated the message that there is a need for especially the Islamic education beneficiaries who usually belong to the impoverished areas, especially again in the Philippines, where we are the poorest and the most illiterate region. And we cannot also afford the cost of infrastructure. Internet is a luxury to all these. They are children of fishermen. Filipino Muslims are not really in the upper echelon, I think, of the corporate or even the higher income bracket hierarchy. But then again, let that be addressed by the regular education system. As far as Islamic education, which should continue and always, I think, prosper as we advance also, there are discoveries, and pretty much if we are able to address, like what Dr. Faki said, commoditizing, making this internet technology and education packaged as something cost effective that does not burden every household, every Filipino Muslim or Sabahan Muslim or I think Indonesians who are again in far-flung areas. There is a dire need for collaboration between institutions, government, and of course the leaders of the communities. That is where it's also missing. Sometimes it's just one agency and some people may be excluded to that. So there must be a continuous dialogue, and everyone is made to understand, and everyone also has to undergo a certain training so that that can be communicated and can trickle down the line effectively, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think that is really very right. Thank you, Mr. Darwish. I think really the one thing you said that's very true. I think it all starts from leaders, as they play a very important role as well. So leaders of the country, leaders of the schools, leader of any learning institutions, or anybody at all who would really want to lead this transformation of Islamic education into adopting education, adopting technology. They play a very, very important role, because they lead and there will be people who follow. So we really need to have leaders who rise up to do all this. Yeah. So thank you, Ibu Salma, thank you, Mr. Darwish, thank you, Dr. Faki, for your time today and for your great sharing. Is there any question that we have from the floor? Like, do we have before we end? Yeah. So if not, actually, I would like to really thank you everybody and really thank you our speakers for being here with us today. So if maybe it's a lot to take in today, a lot of new things. If let's say you feel like you have more questions after this, feel free to get in touch with me and I can help to maybe get connected with our speaker if you have very specific questions that relate to them, or just you want to know a little bit more. We actually have a part 2 of this Education Technology Forum next week, Friday, 4 p.m. same time. We will delve into a little bit more of Malaysian this time. So join us again. And if you have any questions again next week, please feel free to talk about it or your opinions. We really welcome a lot of opinions. Follow us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or Instagram as well. Get some updates from us, and my contact number is there. So get in touch if you really have questions or you just want to get to know a bit more about us at QERA. So thank you, everyone. Have a very, very good weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.